Hello students, today we are going to discuss about irrelevance theory. It is proposed by Miller and Modigliani. It is called as Miller and Modigliani hypothesis or hypothesis. So here this is a irrelevance theory because the hypothesis states that the dividend policy has no effect on the market price of the share and the value of the firm. So actually what the hypothesis indirectly says is the value of the firm is determined by its basic earning power and its business risk, but it is not dependent on dividend policy. So here the value of the firm solely depends on its earning power and is not influenced by the splits in its earnings, that is how much of dividend is to be paid and how much of retained earnings are to be done. The following assumptions are taken into consideration for hypothesis. First one is the market is a perfect market. That means all the information is available to all the investors free of cost and there are no transaction costs and the securities are infinitely divisible and no single investor can influence the market price of the shares. Second one is with reference to the tax rates, there are basically the hypothesis takes the assumption that tax rates, that is there are no differential tax rates applicable with respect to dividends or capital gains. Third assumption is that the firm will have a fixed investment policy. That means the investment that is to be made will be in a fixed pattern, okay, which will not change. Next one is that there is no risk or in other way there is no uncertainty that prevails in the pricing of the market. So here what does this imply is the investors are able to forecast the future price of the shares. But this is not actually true because there are many factors, that is like internal factors and external factors, where henceforth when you go and understand about systematic risk and unsystematic risk, you will understand that there are many influential factors which an investor cannot speculate or forecast. Next is the dividend is with certainty, and finally the last one is one discount rate is appropriate for all securities at all times. Okay, these are the assumptions. Now what is the argument of hypothesis states, or basically the hypothesis gives the argument that the total thing is based on arbitrage argument. Arbitrage means generally when there is a difference in information, in the flow of information, generally you have what is called as arbitraging. Okay, so basically here arbitrage refers to 2 points, that is paying out of dividends and raising funds externally, which exactly balance each other. Okay, so here the external funds are raised by fresh equity or by debt. As we have studied in capital structure, we have two components, that is equity and debt. So here what we are saying is the external debt or external funds are raised by the fresh equity shares and debt. Now firms have two alternatives, that is distribute earnings as dividends and raise an equal amount externally by fresh issue, or retain its earnings to the finance the investment projects. So here what does this arbitrage argument basically lies is, it is on the two important alternatives. What are these two alternatives is, first thing is the all the earnings are distributed as dividends and the required amount of the appraisal. See, for example, you take that there is an investment proposal of 1 lakh. Now the firm is having earnings of 1 lakh. Now what they will do is all these earnings are distributed as dividends, and the 1 lakh rupees of proposal investment will be raised by issuing 1 lakh shares. What the first alternative states is this. Second alternative is not distributing the dividend but retaining the earning of 1 lakh, which will go for investment for the project. Okay, so these are the two alternatives. So here, what is arbitrage process involved here is, we are having two things. That is, arbitrage process is involved only when the firm opts the first alternative, that is paying of dividend and raising of the investment from the fresh issue. So this process can be applied only in the case number 1, whereas in case number 2, that is when you are retaining the earnings and going for investment, there is no need of any arbitrage. Okay, so here so the investors are indifferent. What is this? Why the investors are indifferent? Because they are in want of share price, wealth. So here if you see, we have two things, that is dividend and retention. In the two alternatives, we have first one is the dividend and second one is the retention. So which one will the investor is likely, the or he will prefer? He will prefer the first one because he wants the dividend. He won't prefer the second one because it may correspond to the share price wealth, but it won't give him the return. Did you understand? So he is in preference of current dividend. So the payments of dividend is irrelevant. Here what we want to prove here, or what hypothesis want to prove is, the payment of dividend is irrelevant with respect to the share price of the firm. This only we will prove. Okay, so the value of the firm depends on firm's future earnings power and not on the earnings split. Okay, that is dividend or retained earnings. So here we will see the criticism on hypothesis, or we will see the limitations of the hypothesis. So according to the assumptions that have been taken in hypothesis, the first one we said that there are perfect capital markets, but in practice there are no perfect capital markets. Second one is, we said that there are no tax differentials, that is there is no difference in the tax rates that are being posed or applied to the investors with respect to dividend or the capital gains. But in practice actually there are tax differentials and investors have to pay different tax rates for different components, for example the dividends and the capital gains. Third point or third limitation is that there are flotation costs. So we have taken an assumption that there are no flotation cost or transaction cost. So you see that in flotation cost we have to pay the brokerages, underwriting commissions, because we are going for fresh issue of shares. Definitely we have to give the brokerage cost, we have to pay the underwriting commission and all these things, right? So the next one is, there are transaction costs for the issue of the shares. Next, one more point we have said, assume that the information is a free flow one and it is of free of cost, but the information is having asymmetry. That means all information is not available to all the investors. The other things are that institutional restrictions prevail, where we have assumed that there are no restrictions. We have seen the other assumption as that there is no risk, but there is a risk component and uncertainty at every point. Okay, then we see the next one where we are telling about near versus distant earnings, that is current dividends versus the future dividends. See, when we are telling about waiving of the payment of dividend, in place we are going for retained earnings, where you are seeking for future dividend. But when we are telling payment of dividend, case number 1, payment of dividend and fresh issue, you are telling about current dividend. So the criticism goes between the current dividend and the future dividend. Next one, that is it is with respect to the investors. So investors, we are saying that they desire for the current income, that is they go with the bird in the hand argument, which states that investors are risk averse and always they prefer for the current dividend. And the last one is when we are going for the distribution of dividend and raising of the same amount from the fresh issue, where you are offering a fresh issue, you are offering the price which may be below the current market price. So here we are going for an underpricing concept. Here we will try to understand how we are going to prove the hypothesis. It is based on some mathematical formulae. So here the first one is we calculate the market price of the share at the end of period 1. So here P1 is the market price per share at the end of period 1, which is given by P0 into 1 plus KE minus D1, where P0 is the market price per share at period 0. K is the cost of equity capital, D1 is the dividend that is issued after period 1. Second one, we calculate the total capitalization value of the outstanding equity shares of the firm at the period 0. So which is given by NP naught, which is equal to 1 by 1 plus K into D1 plus N1 NP1. Now the third formula is we want to calculate the amount that is to be raised. So in the first case we have said that dividend is going to be paid and the equivalent amount will be raised by the fresh issue. So what is the amount that we have to raise? We will calculate here. That is amount needed to be raised by the issue of new shares. That is D into NP1 is equal to I minus E minus ND1. So here DNP1 means amount raised by the sale of new shares. I is the total fund that is required for the investment. E is the total earnings of the firm, and ND1 is the total dividends period, that is a period 1 at the end of that are being paid. So E minus ND1 represents the retained earnings. Now next we will calculate how many additional shares to be issued. So we take the total amount, that is DNP1 divided by the market price, the present market price of P1. Then we calculate what is called as the value of the firm given by this particular formula. N P0 is equal to N plus delta N into P1 minus I plus E divided by 1 plus KE. Now let us try to understand how we are going to prove this hypothesis. We will see one example. Let us try to prove the hypothesis. We will take one example. So here ABC Limited company belongs to a risk class for which approximate capitalization rate is 10%. It currently has an outstanding 30,000 shares which are selling in the market at rupees 80. The company is expecting a net income of rupees 4 lakhs and it has a profitable investment project proposed that costs rupees 6 lakhs. The company is interested to declare a dividend of rupees 4 per share at the end of financial year. Now we have to show here, under hypothesis, the payment of dividend does not affect the value of the firm. So what is given in the problem here is cost of capitalization KE is 10%, current outstanding shares, that is existing shares, are 30,000, that is N, market price at the period of 0, that is the initial market price P0 is rupees 80. Total earnings during the period is 4 lakhs. The total fund required for investment or the profitable investment proposed, that is I, is 6 lakhs. And dividend declared at the end of the year 1, that is D1, is rupees 4. These are given in the problem. Now we will apply these values and find out the thing. So here we divide the total calculation into two parts. The first part is we calculate the value of the firm when dividends are paid. So when dividends are paid, see what we want to prove here. What is the irrelevance telling? That the dividend policy is not having any relevance with respect to the value of the firm. So in case 1, we calculate the value of the company when dividends are paid. In case 2, we calculate the value of the firm or company when dividends are not paid. Okay, right. So in first part, we calculate what is called as the share price at the end of year 1. So here if you see, P1 is equal to P naught into 1 plus KE minus D1. So what is P naught here? It is 80. Cost of capitalization or cost of equity is 10% and dividend is 4 rupees. So you get the market price or the share price at the end of year 1 is 84 rupees. Now second, we calculate the amount required to be raised from outside by issue of new shares. Okay, here we want to calculate the amount raised. So here we see that I is the total amount that is required for the profitable project investment, that is 6 lakhs. E, we have earnings of 4 lakhs, where N is 30,000, that is the existing shares. The dividend that is declared is rupees 4. So when we calculate, the amount that is required to be raised is 3,20,000 is to be raised from outside. Okay, so how did we get this? So the dividend is declared from, which is subtracted from the earnings. You will be left out with the retained earnings that you are subtracting from the required investment, where you are taking the difference and you are getting the amount that is to be raised. Now we calculate the third one, that is the number of additional shares to be issued. So how we get the amount that is to be raised, that is which is to be raised, that is 3,20,000 divided by the price, market price, that is P1, that is 84. So we got delta N, that is the additional shares that are to be raised is 80,000 divided by 21 shares. Now calculating the value of the firm, we substitute the values. So here N is the existing shares, that is 30,000 divided by 1, whereas the delta N is the number of additional shares that are to be issued, that is 80,000 divided by 21. Total multiplied by P1, that is 84, minus I is the total amount required to be raised, that is 6 lakhs, and the earnings is 4 lakhs, divided by 1 plus 0.10, that is the cost of capitalization. So you will get the value of the firm to be 24 lakhs. Now in case 2, we calculate the value of the company when dividends are not paid. That means initially we have taken dividend is dividend is 4 rupees. Now we will take the dividend to be 0. The same formula we substitute, where dividend D1 is there, we will substitute 0. So if you see here, first I have calculated the calculation of the share price at the end of the year 1. So here P1 is equal to P naught into 1 plus KE minus D1. You see that the P1 is coming to be rupees 88. Why? Because the dividend is 0. So there we have calculated dividend is 4. So you got 84 rupees. Now here we are getting as 88 rupees. Now second one, we want to calculate the amount required to be raised from outside by the issue of new shares. So there we have taken 4 dividend, which is multiplied by 30,000, where we got 3,20,000. But here if you see, if dividend is not paid, you have to raise only 2 lakh rupees as an additional amount from the fresh issue of shares. Now we calculate next one is the number of additional shares to be raised. So similarly here we got 2 lakhs to be raised, divided by the price, that is 88. We got 50,000 divided by 22. Now value of the firm is, if you calculate, you will get the same value, that is 24 lakhs. So you see that when dividends are paid, you are getting the value of the firm to be 24 lakhs, and when you are not paying the dividend also you are getting 24 lakhs. Now we'll just you will see the summary of the thing in one particular place. So if you see the value of the firm when dividends are paid, that is the share price P1 is 84 when dividends are paid, and when no dividends are paid it is 88. Now the amount that is to be raised in case 1, that is when dividends are paid, is 3,20,000. That means we are going for extra issue of shares because we are distributing the dividends. In case 2, we see that the amount is reduced to 2 lakhs. Now the number of shares issued also is considerably different. So delta n is, in case 1 it is coming out 80,000 divided by 21, and in case 2 it is 50,000 divided by 22. Finally we see the value of the firm to be 24 lakhs in both the cases. So what do we infer here is the dividend policy has no effect on the market price of the share and the value of the firm, because in both the cases we have assumed that, we have calculated that there is no influence, because when you are paying the dividend the value of the firm is coming as 24 lakhs, and when you are not paying the dividend also it is coming as 24 lakhs. So this proves the MM hypothesis.